Community activists, local leaders, and even Oregon's governor had harsh words for federal officials after a controversial immigration operation in Bend.
They have batons ready to go. They've got their helmets. They've got
a well-fortified team of federal officers intervened after protesters rallied for nearly 12 hours to block immigration and customs enforcement from detaining the two men on Wednesday.
My sense was this was a political show, and the residents of Bend were pawns and put at risk because of that. That's what disgusted me.
Deschutes County District Attorney John Hummel said city and state officials tried to de-escalate the situation, but U.S. Homeland Security wouldn't have it.
The answer we got was this decision is at the top of our government, the very top. I took that to mean Chad Wolf, Attorney General Barr, and President Trump, and the response we got was clear. They did not want to broker a peaceful resolution.
Federal officers had a pair of large buses standing by when they arrested the two men. It's not clear if the operation was part of a larger immigration sweep. In a statement, an ICE spokesperson said, "The two individuals arrested by ICE have criminal records that include convictions for assault, harassment, coercion, and criminal trespassing. They are also repeat immigration violators who were previously encountered by U.S. immigration officials and granted voluntary return to their home countries." ICE declined to identify the men taken into custody, but GoFundMe sites describe them as loving husbands and fathers. They're longtime Central Oregon residents. At a rally in Bend, a friend, speaking through an interpreter, shared a message from their families.
We do not know if they've been fed. We do not know if they've slept. We don't have any information.
The Portland-based nonprofit Innovation Law Lab filed a lawsuit against the feds and asked the court to keep ICE from moving the men out of Central Oregon. But at a court hearing late this afternoon, we learned the men are already at a detention center in Tacoma. Kyle Aboshi, KGW News.